It's Tuesday, September 20th, 2011. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, The Hive, a game buzzing with possibilities.
Why did you say something?
That's what it says on the box.
Let's do this.
That is what it says on the box. Hive, a game buzzing with possibilities. And the website is hivemania.com.
Okay, so Rim.
Yeah?
You know, there's a lot of old games that we'd like to play, but we cannot play, at least not easily or reasonably.
Like TIE Fighter.
Oh my God, you actually came up with the game I was going to discuss.
Because that
without any sort of pre-telling.
Wait,
I swear to God.
That's really what you're going to talk about?
Because usually I was expecting you to be like Tribes 2 and name all the other games except for the one that I was trying to discuss.
No, but you see, if I go back, if you talk about my desire to play a game that does exist or did exist in some form, where I don't even need it to be better.
I know that was the right answer, but I was assuming that as soon as I needed you to say it, you wouldn't say it. But the fact that you said it is like, oh my God.
That was kind of amazing because usually Tribes 2 is the answer.
And I swear there was no pre-talking whatsoever. Rim had no idea what I was going for. So,
all right. So TIE Fighter.
I realized there is a major flaw in TIE Fighter. An extreme flaw.
Well, here's one flaw. It's so old.
That's not the flaw.
And so slow.
You're totally way off base.
And I'm so good at it.
Not even close.
That I can basically single-handedly with a TIE Interceptor take out a Star Destroyer.
So here's the flaw of TIE Fighter.
Single player.
That I realize is a major problem.
All right.
That makes it basically I can't play that game anymore.
You don't have a joystick.
No, not even close.
You don't have the instruction manual anymore.
No. When you're playing TIE Fighter,
yeah.
What do you see?
I see a tornado withering in the distance.
What do you actually see on the screen?
I see out the front of my ship.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a TIE Fighter pilot?
Yeah, they're kind of funny looking.
Do you remember what they look like? They look something like this. What do you think he fucking sees out of that fucking helmet? He sees like two black slits.
He probably has displays inside of that helmet.
Then how come when you're playing TIE Fighter, you actually see the physical inside of the ship as opposed to just heads-up displays?
Because you're so badass, you took the helmet off.
No, you didn't. You would die in the cold horrible of space.
Plus, how do you know? Maybe there's cameras in the eyes. Maybe there's lenses.
No. It's total bullshit.
I don't think it's that bad. You don't know what it looks like.
You can't take the helmet off. That's why this hose is coming out of it, so he can fucking breathe.
I want to point out there's a much bigger flaw. What was Darth Vader doing? I take it, Scott, that you
when he kept turning little knobs.
I was gonna say what interface does Darth Vader have to his ship? And apparently, it is an Atari 2600 paddle controller, and nothing else.
Basically, I can tell you exactly what he was doing, and no, this is based on my Scott Rubin. It's not based on any Star Wars thing, because I'm sure there are plenty of Star Wars nerds who came up with an answer for this.
All right.
But according to me, what he was doing is basically he controls the ship with the Force.
All right, so what was that knobbly?
The only thing he can't control with the Force is the fuel injection. So
fuel. What fuel does the TIE Fighter use?
Space fuel.
I'm going to Google right now. What is Darth Vader doing with that?
They definitely have fuel because they had the Millennium Falcon refuels on the Cloud City and also in Tatooine.
All right, I searched for what was Darth Vader doing with that knob, and I didn't find anything.
Really? I'm sure the nerds are going to come out and tell us.
I'm sure I could Google more specifically for TIE Fighter knob interface.
Yeah, but basically my excuse is that every part of the rest of the TIE
Well, Scott,
Fighter
I point out, look at what
was controlled with the Force except for the knob.
So look at what Porkins and everybody was doing.
No, you know what? I got it. Here's the real answer. That
Wizard?
He was actually controlling the entire ship with the Force. And that was his flask. He was unscrewing the cap. He couldn't get it. That's why he spun off into space, because he was wasted. He could.
I think they can see just fine out of those stupid helmets.
They can't see fine out of the stupid helmet.
That helmet actually doesn't look that bad.
Sure.
Also, Scott,
All right, we'll call it the 501st. You'll put one on. We'll see what you can see.
I'm sure I will be able to see many things, including a dread specter of stillborn children on the horizon.
Sure.
I love how the Prince of Nothing has corrupted me to where if someone so much as says the words see and anything in any way related to a question.
What do see you see?
Yep. any combination.
What do you something else beside what do you hear?
It's a very simple, regular expression that generates this meme coming out of me.
Right. So let's move on.
All right. So I got a little bit of a geek bite because, as you may know, Natural Selection is one of our favorite games ever made. One of our favorite FPSs.
And we're not talking about the Darwin book, even though it's pretty good too.
One of our favorite games of any genre. It's a fantastic game. In fact, we talked about it glowingly in many different panels over many years at many conventions.
And many episodes of Geeknights.
So I don't need to talk about how great it is.
Except you just did.
So a while ago, we bought Natural Selection 2.
A long time ago. I pre-ordered that shit. $50.
Yep, we paid for the super ultimate platinum gold black edition. We gave them a pile of money. And
before seeing any product, that could have been a BBOCS situation.
Now I point out many times in my life, I have been
burned.
Burned is such an understatement.
Roasted.
I remember there was a website where you typed in a person's name, and it would go through the decade that person waited between Team Fortress and Team Fortress 2. And yeah, Team Fortress 2 was it was kind of a disappointment to me personally.
So go on.
And Tribes, is just never going to come back. But Natural Selection 2 is playable in an alpha beta state. I don't know if it's technically an alpha or a beta anymore. I don't remember if it was a Telecaster or a Stratocaster. So that's another thing that comes out. Anyway, so I tried to play Natural Selection 2 again over the weekend,
Still
as I
unplayable.
attempt to do about once a month. And you know what?
On your very fast computer, on your FiOS.
Yes, I have FiOS. I have a computer that, while I built it quite some time ago,
It's i7 with NVIDIA,
I bought the
whatever.
best i7 money could buy
It's
when I bought
plenty
it.
enough to play NS2 is the point.
Yeah, it is. You know what? NS2 is unplayable. Any server I join, there's one skulk running around biting a bunch of T-pose Marines stuck in their base.
Meanwhile, if you read the NS2 Twitter feed, it's like they're talking about adjusting the game balance and upgrading weapon models. It's like, are you even playing the same fucking game?
So I
Your
have two
game
questions.
doesn't work.
No,
Who
no, no,
cares
no, no,
a
no,
shit
no.
about balance and models and graphics? Your game does not work.
I have two questions, because one, reading forums and what other people are saying about the game, it appears that there is a small percentage of people who actually claim to be playing. Either they're lying, or maybe
They're only playing land mode or something?
maybe I gave my money to a different group of people and got scammed by accident, and they're all playing the real game.
I don't fucking know. Maybe I think my guess is that it's land mode, right? Because in the office they're testing against each other on a LAN. They're not doing.
Yeah, because I realized that most of the anecdotes I've heard about NS2 play come from the development team themselves and not any other person.
Yeah, they need to all work from home with fucking cable modems until
I
that
don't
shit
think,
fucking works.
However, it's not the net code in and of itself. There are more fundamental problems. I've mostly lost faith in the project, but
I lost faith a long time ago.
I already gave him my money. However, unlike Team Fortress or Weapons Factory or TIE Fighter or Tribes 2 or Tribes, I can still play NS. And you know what?
NS1.
NS, Natural Selection, is still, to this day, one of the
Awesome.
best games ever. And you know what? I was playing over the weekend, and it was exactly the same as it's always been. Though,
Still holds
the community is a tiny bit smaller.
up. I did
tiny
notice.
bit.
I haven't noticed that.
Only a tiny bit. There's like 4 or 5 active, full-on real games without any bullshit mods at any given
I only
time.
ever go to Bad Clan. That's it.
Bad Clan. There's one other server I go to.
Okay.
But the community is a little more pissy.
I haven't noticed that.
Except for Marine Commander, who
Yeah.
sounds older and a little more subdued. Yeah, he's going around. He's like, yeah, get him, Gorge. Yeah, fuck, we lost. Let's just F4. Like, he gives up way more easily than
Didn't
he
have
used
enough
to.
drugs this weekend. Though.
But yeah, I joined the server, and I hadn't played this game in like a year. And I start to play on a random server. I just join, and immediately I'm on the aliens, and some guy's like, "You've got to get a Gorge." Yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh man, it's him. That guy must do nothing but play this game.
Awesome. All right, so check this out. I should probably talk about this on Monday, but I don't care.
Nah.
All right, so the Maker Faire was this weekend.
Yep,
I did not go.
I biked past it.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, I was on my way to Flushing, and
The
I
reason I
forgot
did not-
about the Maker Faire.
reason
So I'm
I
like,
did
I'll
not-
cut through the park, and then the park was
Okay.
full of makers.
I thought you wanted to like hurry up the show, but meanwhile here you are like going
I
on
don't know
100
who said I
tangents.
wanna hurry up the show.
You said that right before we started.
That wasn't said on the show, so it wasn't canon.
Sure. Fine, then I'm not gonna hurry up the show. I'm gonna delay. So
That's fine.
I was gonna go. I went last year. It was cool, but I was thinking, well, this year it's gonna be 90% the same stuff, right? So why, maybe I'll go next year. Right?
Is your news the thing thing that you wanted to see that now that you know it was there, you should have gone?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that was always there, like the maker bots, the 3D printers, print out plastic shit, right? So there's this really interesting article that brings up this question that I had not thought of, right? Apparently, right? The question here is, what if somebody prints out guns? Real guns.
We already have laws about that.
No, so check this out. Ready? Here's the first question, right? There's many layers to this, right? The people who host like the model files, it's like, should they host the model files for the different parts of the guns?
Well, are we going to talk morally or legally?
Do
I'm
both.
curious.
I don't do whatever you want.
Because legally, as far as I can tell, I am not a lawyer of any stretch, nor is Scott. Nor
According
is
to this
anyone...
article, it is not illegal.
Really? Well, it depends, because what I was going to say is that there's regulation about certain kinds
well, at
of
least
components.
Here's a quote from Bree Pettis, founder of MakerBot.
Yeah?
We've already been through a few flame wars around what a weapon is. Our take is that we'd rather you not upload weapons, but we're not going to regulate it unless it's illegal, which it isn't.
Yeah. Well, the thing is it illegal to forge your own sword? It depends on where you live. Maybe there's a law against having a blade that long. Maybe not. Maybe you can't carry it. There are some places where you can own a sword, but you can't carry it in public. I'm sure if I walked around Manhattan with a fully sharpened 6-foot-long sword, I would get stopped.
Yeah, probably.
So,
but here's an even deeper question, right? Apparently, 2 people have uploaded 2 parts to the
I saw an article about this on Fark.
Right. One of the parts they uploaded was just for a magazine, complete with spring, right? The second part was the AR-15 lower receiver. Apparently, the entire AR-15, only the lower receiver is the part that you actually need. Apparently the gun laws, like they thought about this. Which is pretty,
the gun laws are pretty crazy.
If only they would think this hard about the tech laws. It's like they have gun experts to do these gun laws.
The gun laws get to the point to where they list like 6 aspects, and if you have any N of them, you are classified as an assault rifle.
Right,
things like that.
But it's like, how come they have experts in guns writing these gun laws, but meanwhile they have like retarded homeless bums writing the computer laws? What the fuck? But anyway, so
granted, Scott, most gun people, as I have heard them rant many times, say that the gun laws are only impressive to people who don't understand guns.
Probably.
And are ludicrous to gun people.
But at least they put some thought into it. It's like, here, the lower receiver is the frame that holds together all the pieces of the firearm. In the States, all the other pieces can be purchased without a permit over the counter or through the post. The lower receiver is the only part which requires a background check or any other kind of paperwork before purchase. Typically, it's made of aluminum. A rifle with a lower receiver made of plastic can be perfectly functional, and you can just download the schematic of this part and print one out for yourself.
You know what? Awesome.
It is kind of awesome, but here, where's your story about the Diamond Age, where they, guns, lots of guns, and some, awesome nerds or evil crazy guys or militia prints out like an armory's worth of assault rifles.
So Scott, this is
with
a problem
bot.
that people like us, and by us I mean anyone with an IQ above 70 who has ever for more than a fraction of a second considered the future of technology. You know those ads like, you wouldn't download a car, and the common meme response is, fuck you, I would if I could.
That's right.
So it's from the first dawn of man, people have assumed that someday we will mass produce weapons in our homes without any difficulty whatsoever.
Play guns.
I don't think anyone in a position of power anywhere in the world understands the ramifications of that.
They're not even thinking about it.
The thing is, we already can, I can make a bomb really easily.
It's true.
So, and I could make the gun myself.
But here's the difference.
Scott, here's the thing. So here's the thing. Making the bomb requires lab skills and the components and knowing what you're making. Making the gun requires machining skills of some kind, or extruding skills or manufacturing skills, and the equipment and the instructions. This just requires the MakerBot and the file.
You need the bullets.
You can just buy bullets. Bullets are actually, you can just go buy them.
Yeah, see, I think what we need to do is you need to just get rid of all the gun laws.
Scott, we'll be able to print bullets.
And only where you need gunpowder. You can't print gunpowder.
You can make gunpowder pretty fucking easily.
I know, but you can't print it is the point.
Not yet.
You need a chemistry set.
Scott, you're telling me we won't have chemical printers in the next 100 years.
So I'll just go and I'll take some atoms on my screen and I'll arrange them and I'll take two hydrogens and an oxygen and push print and water comes out.
I guarantee you within 100 years we'll at least have maker bots where you give them a set of core components and they can make certain kinds of chemical reactions to make certain materials.
So I could go online and like get the molecule of some medicine and like just print it out. Just like THC, print it, bitch.
I think that's going to happen.
Want to get high?
Give it a couple centuries, that's going to happen.
Maybe.
The only thing that might stop it is energy depletion. Because that'll probably be pretty energy intensive.
I should just type in just take like 900 protons.
Yeah.
And just like, go. Woo, Nobel Prize.
So, what do we do about this? Should we make a Thursday show about this?
I just wanted to talk about it because it's awesome.
It is awesome. I have very conflicted opinions on it, but I feel like here's the reality. Much like I'm going to take the same stance I take with things like privacy, I'm going to take on this. Whatever regulation you make is pointless because it cannot stop it.
Plastic is not. No one's allowed to have plastic.
All right, so they'll ban the plans. Yeah, they banned MP3 downloads.
They're on torrent.
Yeah, Usenet.
USB SneakerNet.
Yeah, SneakerNet. Think about it. In Cuba.
One guy has the plans. Now the whole world has the plans. You delete them from the one spot he just hosted them from.
From what I've read,
the
in
whole
both
world still
Cuba
has the plans.
And North Korea, there is a thriving trade in USB sticks filled with data.
No kidding.
So, yeah.
Mostly TV shows and music and movies.
I love how the primary contraband in North Korea is
South Korean movies.
It's South Korean pop dramas.
And
TV shows, and news about the world.
Yeah.
But primarily South Korean pop dramas. Huh. So, you going to download these plans and make an AR-15 lower receiver?
I don't have any of the other parts, nor would I, even if I had them, I do not know how to put them together.
I'm surprised.
Nor would I even know what kind of bullet to put in it if I even got that far.
You can figure that out with Google.
I'm sure I could.
Come on, wait, Scott. I thought Counter-Strike trained you to be a fucking killing machine. I thought that if you played Counter-Strike for more than 5 minutes, you were militarily trained and knew how to use any weapon.
If you got a gun I can operate leaning back in a chair without any recoil, then everybody is in big trouble if they are evil.
So I want to talk a little bit, briefly, about the whole Sony PSN TOS.
All right, go for it.
Now, there's a lot of news about this, and then it's interesting because the news everyone's focusing on is that they basically prohibit you from suing them, and it's a kind of like...
Well, that was the change.
Yeah.
All the other stuff in the TOS was there before.
So while that is the change, and I think there were some other changes too, because they kind of rewrote it, and they're also making you agree to it or you can't use the service anymore. One, as some journalists
That's the same as every other service.
As one journalist very pointedly and poignantly pointed out, yeah, I learned about this because my 10-year-old son said that a window popped up and he clicked OK to make it go away before the PlayStation would start this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, click through, whatever. But because of all this, there's a point in this TOS that I want to read to you verbatim because I know how Microsoft handles this BS and we know how Nintendo handles this. It's Sony... It's like they tried to find the worst possible middle ground between these two ways of doing things. Mm-hmm. It's like they went out of their way to make the stupidest, most unenforceable and arbitrary policy in the world.
Okay.
You may not provide anyone with your name or any other personally identifying information other than your online ID, nor the name, password, or personally identifying information of any other person or business through any means.
Uh-huh.
So you cannot, basically, if you have a handle, your online ID in PSN, it is against the terms of service and a kickable, bannable offense to so much as reveal anything about yourself, where you live, what your name is, another handle you have, an email address, the name of any business, whether or not it's related to you. Theoretically, according to this, if you say the word Microsoft, you should be banned.
Uh-huh.
If you say the word Sony, you should be banned.
All right.
It's ludicrous. I mean, Nintendo just doesn't actually let you communicate with people.
Yeah.
And Microsoft is just a sea of dicks.
Yep.
And the internet is just somehow, I don't know if it's actually more or less dicks. Because I found that Xbox Live tends to have more assholes than on normal online play. But I play in walled gardens. I play in like password protected CS servers. And I don't know. I just find this sentence amazing.
I just don't, I mean, every TOS you're ever gonna read, Apple, Nintendo, anybody, is full of evil and crazy, stupid bullshit like this Adobe, sure, right? But the Sony ones, right? It's like Sony has more so than any of these other companies, because all companies have had huge fuck-ups in the TOS department of like, oh my god, they're so evil.
Sony goes out of its way. Sony goes above and beyond. It's almost as though Sony has a fuck-up department whose job is to fuck up.
Remember Apple was like, you can't make software for the iPhone using it right, and and Nintendo. Everyone has had their evil, but Sony is the only one that has had consistent streak of evil over and over and over.
It's not just evil.
Without taking a break.
It is evil followed up by incompetence.
Yes, but we can't tell which one it is, right? The old saying goes. But regardless, whether it's evil or incompetence, Sony is the only company that has had a never-ending streak in that department going on, like 10 plus years since I was in like high school. So seeing that, I don't know why people still give money to Sony for anything.
What if they want to use their stuff?
What stuff does Sony have that you need to use?
Maybe games that other people might like that are exclusive that you personally might not like?
For like, how many of those games are there? 3?
Depends.
Yeah. Almost none. It's not worth it.
I feel like in general, the terms of service stuff when it comes to online stuff is so broken. Like we just talked about how broken gun laws are. I feel like all this stuff is just a giant catastrophe waiting to happen. I mean, part of the terms of service says that I affirm that I'm at least 18, an emancipated minor, or possess legal parental or guardian consent. But if I'm not, I can't have agreed to the contract anyway. So TOS seem to only exist to cover people's asses from liability. I don't feel like that liability should even exist. I don't feel like any online service should actually have any responsibility to do any checking or follow-up on the age or locality or anything of its users.
Well, the problem is that there's actually laws about
I know,
this
I
kind
don't
of
think
shit.
there should be.
I don't think so
For example,
either.
the fact that to go to a website that talks about beer, if it's hosted in the U.S., they tend like a beer distributor, you have to say what your age is.
But you can watch a football game with a beer commercial.
Or
you can go to a football stadium with beer ads
Scott,
everywhere.
I point out that every 13-year-old in the world was born on January 1st, 1901.
Yeah.
I think there's a much more elegant terms of service that we should use for just about everything with maybe minor improvements.
Use at your own risk.
Don't cheat. Don't steal.
Don't steal.
Don't punch or kick people.
Yeah.
Don't harass anyone.
Yeah.
Don't spray paint on stuff. I guess in Counter-Strike, we need to be able to spray paint on stuff.
That's important.
Don't mess with things that aren't yours. Well, again, I guess in Counter-Strike, I need to be able to mess with things that aren't mine.
Well, they are yours. If I kill you, all your stuff belongs to me.
Yeah, but
isn't that how it works?
Yeah, but Scott, so I planted this bomb. You came over and started fucking with it.
You put it on the ground.
Still mine. I'm standing right next to it.
No, that's like move your feet, lose your seat. You're not touching it. It's not yours.
Scott, that was my bullet. Give it back.
I'm touching it. It's mine now.
So things of the day. It's meta pony in that it's related to ponies, but it's not a pony
Too
thing.
much pony.
It's a good thing, though. So when Emily pointed this out, I had no idea. Even though I'm a fan of Barbra Streisand, I just had actually never heard this song.
Really? The Mega Streisand?
I'm also, you know what, Scott? I am also a fan of Meatloaf, Bonnie Tyler, and Cher. In fact, I actually really like Cher-style concerts.
Okay.
They're kind of like modern pop costume review. Anyway, any of you, you know what? Punk kids in the forum, your whiny, emo, whatever music it is, I guess dubstep is what you're all into now. Cher is better than dubstep. Oh!
Okay.
So, The Art of the Dress, a song about which many of you may be familiar, many of you are probably humming it right now or going on YouTube to listen to it so it gets stuck in your head, is in fact based on a Barbra Streisand song
Just
called...
about every pony song is based on some other song.
Exactly. So, if you're into music, it would be interesting for you to look at these two songs and then go check out all the other like relations. I did a week-long thing of the day years ago where I took the song Born to Be Alive and followed it through the internet to its source, through all the remixes and covers and mashups and everything. I did the same thing with another Russian song at one point, and I don't remember even what it was called. Oh, Those Were the Days. So it's a fun hobby of mine. So I'm giving you the pony version and the Barbra Streisand version, and I encourage you to use these as seeds to do this to some other song, or maybe this song.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So this isn't really, you know, a typical thing of the day with like a funny video and all that stuff, right? This is just a long, well, I guess New York Times Magazine article, I guess. It's one of those big, long 6-pagers, but it's really fascinating. Words, exactly, words. But basically the deal here, the summary is there's a guy, and he was a foreign correspondent, right? And so he had
is this the high school football thing?
No.
Okay, never mind.
So his job was to work in Russia, right? So he had to take his family to Russia. And he was like, oh, do I really want to do this? Should we just send them to an international school where everyone speaks English? Or we should send them to the Russian school, right? So at first, they were, you know, they had a hard time. They were like, all right, let's be badasses. Let's send them to the, to the Russian public school, right? That was bad. Didn't work out so well.
Nah.
Yeah. But then they were going to send them to the international school. They were going to give up, right? Like, oh, this isn't working. But instead, they sent him to this totally cool school. And the thing with this totally cool school is it was one of those situations. It was like one guy who was sort of like, it was his school, sort of, I guess, a John Taylor Gatto of Russia.
Maybe Bill Gates?
No. And basically his idea, you know, he has ideas about how kids should learn and all that shit, you know, and it tells the story of how the kids struggled, but eventually unstruggled and the whole stuff. But was the thing that was most fascinating about this, right, which they didn't talk about too much, was some of the classes they had there. They basically had classes on, I can't find in the article because it's 6 pages, the Russian name they used for this class, but it was basically the avoid bullshit class, like how to detect coercion and propaganda and not have it influence you, because it's a Russian school. Right? So it totally makes sense that this totally
we need that here.
That this totally cool guy running the school is like, yeah, we're gonna have a class about not falling for bullshit. Another cool thing in the story.
We need that.
Yeah, another cool thing is they talk about how, you know, when the kids were having a hard time, one of the teachers for one of the kids taught the whole class in English one day and was like, yeah, that's how it is for, you know, the American kid, all you Russian kids. Apparently, and they says like one of the Russian kids was crying because he didn't know what was going on, you know, and he was like, "Yeah, it's what that kid's feeling every day because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. So leave him alone." Anyway, it was really fascinating, and it's cool.
So very briefly, in the meta moment, the book club book, which we'll be doing as soon as I finish reading it, which won't be that long, is The Ear, the Eye, the Arm by Nancy Farmer. It's a future cyberpunky sci-fi detective story set in Africa.
If someone was going to make a fan fiction, it could be like, you know,
What?
Like the boob, the butt, the dick, something like that.
That was... I thought you were going to... Okay.
I was going to say, like, if there were 3-year-olds, you know.
The poop that peed. That's pretty much it. Gaming cons that are coming up in the near future. Well, not the near future. The nearest future. MagFest is going to be fucking awesome.
Next year.
Because it's in the new venue.
No cons for the rest of the year.
Yep. MagFest, though. It's coming.
Yep.
I'm charging my laser.
Already charging?
It's the only thing that moves the blob.
My laser's already full. I got a second laser coming.
So, long time ago, at I think it was PAX.
I don't know.
I think we picked this game up at a PAX or a Connecticut.
This was like a PAX multi-years ago.
Yeah, it was called The Hive, or Hive.
Well, I was going, basically, let's find a 2-player game we can play really quick. I think it must have been PAX 08 or 09.
Corollary to that, find a weird game.
Yeah, find a weird game we never seen before. So we're in the PAX library, and I see a game in a bag, and I'm like, that's a winner. So I grabbed the game in the bag, and we played it really quick, and
it was okay.
Didn't really fully grasp it. We sucked.
Yeah, we played it once. We're like, all right, whatever. And then we put it away and went to a concert or something.
I don't know what we did.
I remembered the game because every time I went to a PAX, I'd see it in the library and be like, oh yeah, that game.
It's one of those games that you see around, but you never play, right? It's like when you go to a store, especially like a gaming store, there's the section, or a comic store especially, there's the section with the new stuff, and it's always changing. So you're always looking there really closely to see the new stuff. But there's always that shelf where the stuff never gets bought, and it's just sitting there with the same stuff on it.
It's all the old war games and Memoir
Right.
44.
And you just sort of, like, you don't actually look closely at the shelf. Your brain doesn't process each item. It's just your brain remembers the shelf as a whole unit, and you just recognize it, and you can immediately tell nothing has changed on it just by glancing, because it matches your memory exactly. But if someone asked you, name one thing on that shelf without looking at it, you'd be like, right? So the Hive is one of those things, like, you see it everywhere. There's a picture of it in your brain if you go to the game store, but you never actually look closely at it or even recognize it exists. And if someone like were to take it off the shelf and show it to you, it would like disrupt your brain. Like, what? Huh? Like, you couldn't even imagine that the shelf would move. I wonder if there's a name for this, like a neurological or psychological thing. Whatever.
Chunking, I've heard people use to describe that, but I don't know if that's a technical term or just what my AP bio teacher called it.
Weird brain stuff. Woo.
My AP bio teacher called it chunking, that your brain will take a set, and if it can chunk it down into like one discrete unit, that's much more efficient, and then you'll remember the unit, but maybe not any details of the unit.
Right.
Though a detail may trigger memory of the unit, even though you won't know why it triggered it.
So anyway, the Hive is one of those things where you'll see it, but you won't actually look at it closely until we tell you to right now.
So the Hive is just a bag full of a bunch of tiles.
They're all hexes.
And they're equal. It's a perfect, complete information game. It's completely symmetrical. And the goal is to place your little grasshoppers and anties and beetles and spiders. And
that's all the things.
And there's expansions like the mosquito and the ladybug.
We got to get that shit.
Yeah, people don't seem to like them that much.
Whatever.
But your goal is to surround the other person's queen bee.
Surround bee to stay
win
alive.
Without having your own bee be surrounded. And it can be surrounded by tiles of either color. Doesn't matter. If the queen bee is completely surrounded, the queen bee dies.
Yep.
So beyond that, every bug has a power. And the game actually has a pretty unique starting metrics or starting conditions. So you place any bug that you want, the first player.
Mm-hmm.
Second player places a bug, has to be charging the first bug. They're all hexes. From this point forward, you can only play a tile if it is placed such that it does not touch any tile of another color.
Mm-hmm.
So the other person's tiles.
Yep.
You cannot move any bugs until you place your queen bee. Once you have placed your queen bee, you can either place a guy or move a guy.
So
now,
if you play the bee first, you can just start playing and moving all that you want like crazy. But if you play something else, you've got to play you got to either play the bee or play something else until the fourth turn, where if you haven't played the bee yet, you'll be forced to play it now on your turn. So
that's the rub. You
Right.
must place the bee in one of your first 4 turns.
But
it does not matter which one.
But also you can't, on your turn, normally you can move or place. But
I said that.
Right. If you have not placed the bee, you cannot move yet.
And then it's just a game of maneuvering, and every bug has a power. The ant can just move around the whole outside.
But not the inside.
The beetle can walk on top of shit. The bee moves like a chess king. The bee kind of sucks.
Yeah, well, the bee is the defending piece.
Grasshopper can only jump over any number of dudes.
In a straight line.
Spider moves 3 spaces around the outside of other tiles. Though we already ran into
a spider problem.
Yeah, we came across an unresolvable spider situation. I have to go through the errata to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And so far, it's a good game because I'm always a fan of the simple, fairly abstract, direct competition, 2-player, complete perfect information games like Oshi or the Stick game.
Right.
Or
the idea
Hive.
is you have a game that's basically fundamentally the same as Chess or Go, right? It's you can see everything that's on the board. You know every move the other person can make. There's nothing hidden, and it's just moving pieces and placing pieces, and you're trying to win. And everyone has the same thing, and the only difference is who goes first, right? The difference here is that Chess and Go have such a huge play space, a solution space.
Coupled with the fact that good players are way above you. Playing against someone who's good at chess is the same as playing against someone who's good at Street Fighter.
But the games also, while having such a big space of decision making, also have a lot of pieces. Like there's a lot of, even a chessboard has a lot of pieces on it.
Now chess is more fun if you play it with someone who is at your skill level.
Yeah.
But it does run into the problem of it'll take years to fully explore that play space. A game like the Hive or Oshi, if you're smart and you keep playing against one person or a few people over and over and over again, you're going to rapidly go through like phases of gameplay.
We're already seeing that.
Yep. So we haven't
But the
solved
thing
it,
is,
but
a game like Oshi or Hive, right, gives you quite a large decision space, but a lot less pieces. It's like it's like compressed, because you have less pieces on a smaller board, but there's more complex rules, perhaps, or just the way the rules are. The fact that they're hexes and there's different tricks you can do. It's like you've managed to be able to get, a very complex game, maybe not necessarily as complex as Go, but it's easier to keep the whole game in your brain, even if you haven't studied it for years and years and years.
And it's also, by being perfect and complete, it's a game where you can fully analyze everything that is happening and everything that has happened. And they're great games to teach you pattern recognition and, gaming analytics, game theory, analyzing data and patterns in game theory sense, even if you don't understand the math.
Yeah. And, of course, they're 2-player games, which are rare, and it's rare you get a good one. And very quick to learn and quick to play. People talk about easy to learn, difficult to master. Yeah, sure, whatever. Quick to play is very important because otherwise you're sitting there for hours.
The first time I heard that term
Hmm?
was watching Mask.
Okay.
M.A.S.K. And I think it was Matt Tracker got into Miles, what's his name's little motorbikey thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like trying to shoot somebody with it. And then the bad guy radios him and he's like, you can see that it's very easy to pilot. A minute to learn, but a lifetime to master. And then he like blows him up or something. So in our playing of the Hive, I'm going to say, and I say this about every game like this game is straight up the stick game in that its primary pattern is between stable and unstable states. Unstable meaning one player...
You should put a link in the show to your stick game because people don't know.
I should make like a web game. I should make the stick game online.
HTML5 stick game?
Yeah.
Get put up against a random opponent?
That'd be pretty easy to do, actually. I'm not going to do it, but it'd be easy to do.
Okay.
But anyway, so the game is stable and unstable. It becomes unstable once one player has a direct path to victory, as in they can just start attacking the other bee in such a way that the first player cannot fill in or defend fast enough.
Right. It's like if your bee, you remember you have to surround the bee, and it's a hex. So you need 6 pieces around the bee. So if your bee has 4 around it and mine has 3, you're ahead by 1, depending on whose turn it is. Even if I go first, okay, so now we're even, but then you're ahead.
But it's still stable if a player doesn't have a clear, immediate path to finishing the surrounding due to, attacks.
Yeah,
and
you have to
count.
Basically, what you end up doing is you look at how many things are already around your bee. Then you see if you can maybe move your bee. If you can move the bee, if it's not trapped yet, then that means you can probably really fuck the other guy over.
Thing is, bee gets trapped like right away in the base game with an ant.
And there's not much you can do to avoid it either.
Grasshopper, ant.
Right. But what you do is once the bee's trapped, you count how many actions it will take for the other guy to completely surround the bee and how many actions it'll you to take to completely surround his bee if you did full offense. And then you're like, all right, what are the alternatives that can occur here to maybe change those numbers?
Now, it's funny that whenever Scott and I play games like this, they always go through the same pattern. The first bunch of games, I'll win them because it's a new game we haven't played before, and Scott always tries to play a real strategy. And I literally just look at the game and say, how can I do the most aggressive, just make the game as unstable and unpredictable and crazy as possible, and then just hope that that'll make me win. And in a game like this, that'll work until we both know the game, and then I'll lose an equal number of games following as Scott uses real strategy and my attack only one strategy no longer applies.
And then, since, we're both trying to solve the game, it's like I'll just try crazy stuff, and sometimes it works, like my bee ant. That was a great move.
But then I came up with the counter. I can't win against it, but I can force a draw reliably.
Yeah, and then we also learned that like going first sucks.
Yeah, we got into this pattern where, I won a whole bunch of games, and then Scott won a whole bunch, and then we alternated, and then we realized we were only alternating because whoever went first always lost. So we started going first and trying different like patterns of play from going first to figure out if there's a way to escape there's actually a very specific and direct way to win if you go second. And the only way I can come up with to get out of it is to be able to force a draw.
Yeah.
And I found myself going for the draw if I went first because I knew I couldn't win. I won one game going first, but that was a game where Scott tried some crazy bullshit that was ill-advised.
I was just trying it out. It's like, you can't get
well, like
better.
when I tried my all spiders in the beginning strategy. That's something so well.
That's something I noticed that happens in a lot of games, right? Is like, okay, you've gotten to sort of a rut, right? You're using the same strategies over and over because, they've worked for you in the past or whatever.
T&E, I'm a huge victim of that. I will almost always play the same strategy.
You'll do what's familiar and safe, and you can't risk experimenting with the unfamiliar because you might lose.
I always start in the middle with my red-black leaders, and I make the checkerboard.
Right.
And
So what you have to do is you just be like, all right, this game is short enough. In a long game, it's like you don't want to risk losing because it's for serious. But in a short game, you can play it a bunch of times. So you just try crazy shit. Even like one round, just play randomly for like a few turns. Like, just be like bug, bug, bug. And then if you haven't gotten the B by the fourth turn, bring it out. And then, just go for it. See what, try to win with whatever you happen to play.
Well, more importantly, once you get to an equilibrium where, the people you're playing with, victory seems to follow play order or victory seems to be pretty even. Or if you get to a stability point where one player is always winning, then keep playing the game over and over again and iterate through starting strategies because the starting like 2 moves of this game determine a good deal of what comes after.
And you'd be surprised. You have to start reacting to what your opponent did immediately. Like if you go second and the first thing he puts out is B, well, you got to take that into account on your move.
Yep. So choosing your second piece, for example, is I'd say probably 60 to 70% of the victory condition of the actual underlying game.
Yeah. The other thing in this game, right, is that there's sort of these 2 aspects, right? There's the aspect of, since you don't remove any bugs from the board, but they do get trapped where they can't move.
Yeah, because you can't move a bug if it will disconnect the hive and make it 2 separate hives.
It has to be one big hive. And also, a bug can be trapped. Like if it can't physically get out without bumping any other bugs out of the way, then it can't move. So that creates this aspect of geometry where, like, regardless of which bugs are out there, you have to make the board a certain shape to make a disadvantage of your opponent. If too many of his bugs are trapped or, holding the hive together on like a big long string, then those are bugs that can't attack your B, and now you've got the advantage. Another aspect of the game is the bug select. Ow. Is the bug selection. There was a round where I was actually winning. I was gonna win,
but
I had chosen grasshopper earlier, which means I didn't have any left, and the only bug that I could have won with was grasshopper. And I didn't have to use the grasshoppers earlier. I just chose to stupidly. When I should have, if I had used a beetle earlier, which I very well could have, I would have won.
Yep. The geometry of the board will definitely matter when you get into more advanced play, if you play the game a whole bunch. Like,
try to move a bug next to my own bee just to allow my bee to move.
Yep.
Which, works if no one's looking.
You want to move your bee out as much as you can, but a smart player is just going to block you with an ant, and that's it.
That's true, but I mean, if you think about the shape of it, though, right? If there's, it's a hex. So if you surround it on 4 sides out of 6, it can move out of that central piece and go to the edge, and now it's only surrounded on one side. It's like the ultimate killer move because now the guy's fucked because he has 4 or more bugs, committed to this line, this half circle of bugs that can't be split up because they're holding the hive together with your bee at the very end. And if you manage to pull that off, you win.
So, in sum, if you're a board gamer at all, just buy it. It's cheap, and it's one of those games you can just bring with you to like any event, whip it out at a restaurant, just play it whenever. It's great for like being in line at a con.
Mm-hmm.
Or as a warm-up game while you're waiting for other people to show up to play a real game.
This is the thing with there's been a lot of warm-up games lately and not enough hardcore games lately.
Well, we're fixing that tomorrow. Our private board game night is Puerto Rico.
Great.
Hey!
The thing with the warm-up games, that there's so many of them, it's sort of like I'm tired of them. I want to play more real games.
That's why you have so many, so that you always have one you haven't played in a while.
That's true. And also, you got to have a variety of them. Like, Spot It is good with a lot of people, but the Hive is good with 2 people, and the Hive is better, it's more brainy, and you get all kinds of different ones.
Oshi's good, but it does take too long. It's kind of a flawed game, even though I like it.
Yeah, it depends.
Zero was really boring to me until we played that tournament at PAX where the publisher was like, here's the tournament rules, and he made them up kind of on the fly. And they actually made for a really good tournament.
It was all right.
Yeah.
Who won that tournament?
Yeah. I still love the fact that against these people we just randomly played against, it was a perfect tie between you and me for first place, and we had to come down to like a sudden death tiebreaker. I was 1 fucking tile away from walling you off.
Yeah.
But I couldn't keep it up.
Nope. So the Hive is pretty awesome.
Buzz.
I don't know about the expansions though. I want to try them out.
The mosquito, the ladybug.
Are the rules for them online?
Yeah, it looks like it.
All right.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.